So this is going to be a repot with me style video, and that means it might not be super mega engaging, but I personally really like to watch videos like this while I'm doing other things, like while I'm, I don't know, cleaning, cooking or whatever, doing laundry. Then you can kind of listen and can chat with people, virtually anyways. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, I hope you join me on this repot and keep watching. And also something I noticed in my analytics, I love the Google Analytics, but my analytics tell me that actually the majority of viewers is not subscribed to the channel. So I don't know, if you're here and you're watching, why not subscribe? It's literally for free and it would help out the channel a lot because you know the algorithm and everything. So yeah, I rarely ever say these things because it's just so cheesy. I'm like, I have a job, right? It's not like I depend on the monetization and so on, and it kind of feels a little, I don't know, fake and shallow. Like, oh my god, it's so amazing, but it's also nice to have a cool number next to your subscriber count, and I'm really thankful for everyone who has subscribed. Like, we're over 300 people, that's amazing. So yeah, if you enjoy the videos, you know, give a like, subscribe, and all of these things. And yeah, look at this, the walkeriana, I don't know, I kind of don't want to remove the flower. Look at the roots coming as well. Eee. Oh yeah, these ones, they're already repotted, oh my god. The time is non-linear. Hello everyone and welcome back to spring has sprung. I think it's really time to take care of some of these plants here, and that's why I wanted to take you along for a quick repotting session. I have just a bunch of plants here that need to be taken care of because they have new roots and growths coming, so it's the perfect time to give them a new container. I haven't posted in forever. If you've watched the previous video, then you know that I moved actually into a different country. I'm in Switzerland now. Let's just get started with something that's maybe, hopefully anyways, a little easier. And this, I have two Laelia anceps here that I got from Afriorchids. Them in very coarse bark, and I think I can reuse this bark because they haven't spent a lot of time in these pots. However, as you can see, they are really outgrowing their current container with lots of new roots. And what you can also see is that the root tips really do not thrive necessarily in my conditions here. Air is pretty dry, so yeah, I kind of want to get them at least closer to media so they can actually continue growing and getting some nutrients. This plant is about to start a bunch of new growths. I hope it's going to bloom this year actually. It kind of skipped last year, bloomed the year before. So yeah, let's see. I'm just gonna quickly take it out here. Oof, okay, so it looks like this plant really does not enjoy having its roots get in touch with moss at all. This is definitely something I have seen with many other of my Cattleya types as well. They have a very shallow root system in my setup, and yeah, moss really doesn't work that well because it, I guess, keeps the roots too wet for too long if it's in the bottom of the pot. Kind of put it there almost as a water reservoir, but I don't think that setup is working at all. But yeah, there are lots of roots coming on top of the pot, so kind of don't care. And this is also why I want to put them into more shallow pots. I feel like these Laelia anceps are extremely unruly, which in a way makes them interesting. Right, it's nice to have plants that maybe don't follow the rules you set out, but they have their own character and their own growth habit, I guess. But yeah, so I don't want to change too much of the media. As I said, I've put this plant in very recently. Just want to get rid of these dead roots here, and I guess also the moss, because this plant really hates moss. So yeah, let's see how long this all takes. I am actually considering to maybe split this video into 2 parts. I have a bunch of Laelia purpurata that need to be repotted. So I'm considering to make an episode just about them. So yeah, let's see, I'm not sure yet. I'm also kind of trying to get back into filming. I have not filmed in forever, so yeah, I don't know. It's a lot has been going on. The move, new job, new everything. Yeah, that's why I've been absent for a while now. Been watching orchid videos here and there, but I feel like even that wasn't really able to keep up with everything. So yeah, let me know in the comments, you know, what is going on with your collections. What have you been up to? And yeah, which are kind of problems you've been facing? What are you excited for this growing season? Let me know. Wait, I think, yeah, this one can go as well. Don't want to cut off too much, because some of these roots actually, even though they look kind of dead, they seem to be still viable. I mean, it's not like this plant is gonna need these roots, right? Because there's a lot of new growth coming on the root front, but I think it would be great to keep at least some of them to anchor it in the pot, right? It always takes a bit to get anchored again, which is very relatable, right? After a move, after new things, it takes a while to kind of regrow your roots and know what you're doing. So I'm not gonna scold them for taking a bit for that. Yeah, this is a terracotta pot actually, which is already way too small. Kind of don't want to take off this growth here though, that's so stupid. This plant is gonna be very difficult to handle, I think. But this is the biggest pot I have actually, so this is kind of the biggest upgrade I can give. And yeah, as you can see, it's really not enough. Oof. Okay, I guess that's the reason why everyone says you should grow them mounted. Yeah, this is yeah, not the ideal setup, but whatever. This is kind of what we're gonna have to deal with now. So yeah, let's hope this is gonna work, at least for a little bit. I'm also happy that this is a heavier pot, because all of these plants have been extremely top heavy, and it was so annoying to deal with them because, you know, you look at them the wrong way and they just tip over, especially the Angraecum leonis that I'm gonna repot later. Oh, that was so annoying. It actually fell several times. And one time it actually broke off a little piece of its leaf, so I'm like, what is up with this? We need to change this setup. Cannot continue like this. But yeah, so for Laelia anceps, I use this extremely coarse bark. I found that they really do not do well with the humidity on their roots, as you saw. I guess media-wise, this is the closest it would get to being mounted. Okay, there you go, this is the Laelia anceps. I know this was kind of a dumb move to repot it. This is or to put it into this setup, but this is the biggest pot I have. It's extremely difficult to find pots that are, I don't know, containers that are very shallow and large enough for plants like this. I also don't want to go too big, but this is, I mean, this is not at all large enough. I'm kind of hoping to be able to guide it into this direction, so maybe the next growth would still be able to put its roots down here into the media, and then afterwards I really have to figure out a better way on how to deal with this. But I guess it's a luxury problem, right, to have plants. Like, my orchids are just, they just grow too big and they're just too vigorous. I can't find pots large enough. Like, that's a luxury problem, right, everyone? Let's get over it. Okay, on to the next one. I hope to be able to fit this into this pot here. And as you can see, I have some stones here to kind of make the pots a little heavier and kind of weigh them down a bit, because also I actually have a balcony now, and my plan is to put the orchids outside over summer. And since, you know, being top heavy with wind and everything outside is maybe not the best situation to find yourself in, I'm trying to kind of weigh down the pots a little bit with these rocks. And yeah, let's hope that's gonna do anything. But yeah. Okay, same situation. This actually has some finer bark, and I think, yeah, basically every piece of root in the media here is dead, I think. So yeah, maybe that's why they didn't bloom this season, because they just stayed way too wet in this setup. It's great for Laelia purpurata and I don't know, Cattleya genmanii and so on, but I think for Laelia anceps it really does need a little bit of a drier setup. It's just fair, right? Everyone has their own requirements, so maybe it was a good thing to have a look. You can also see that some of the newer growths are actually smaller than what the plant has produced before, so that's also always a sign that things are maybe not going super mega well. Okay, I think these are still okay. There are some branching roots here. I don't know if you can really see this that well, but there is some branching happening, which is really good. This is Laelia anceps, the Hazyview. It's a really interesting, I don't know, maybe albescence. It's a really light colored variant. And the other one was then Tsotsi. I got both of them in an import from Afriorchids. They have a lot of Laelia anceps actually. I really like their lineup actually. Afriorchids has a lot of interesting plants, right? They have, as you might expect from an African nursery, they have some Angraecoids and so on. But they also have a lot of Cattleyas and Laelias, and right, unlike Laelia purpurata, Laelia anceps is actually a real Laelia, because all the Brazilian ones are have been reclassified a few years ago actually. But I think in the hobby everyone still calls them Laelia, right? Laelia purpurata, all the rupicolous Laelias, they're technically Cattleyas now, and I feel like I should call them Cattleya, but you know, it's difficult because when you buy them also, all the nurseries and so on, or usually at least, they list them as Laelias. So I think it's going to take a few more years for the nomenclature to be accepted by the hobbyists. But I don't know, I feel like in the hobby usually it's not really about taxonomy, it's more about growing them, right? So I don't know, I feel like we can all calm down a bit and, you know, maybe not be too strict about this. Never really enjoyed taxonomy anyways. It changes a lot as well. I know it's important, you know, for evolutionary context and so on, it's really useful. But for growing plants, it's really... I think also because taxonomy has been going on for so many years now, right? It's a few hundred years, I guess, almost. Was started with the Enlightenment. There is a lot of this historical, or like there is a lot of this historically grown nomenclature and like all these genera and everything that nowadays with molecular biology we can actually have a much better idea of the relationship between species just based on their DNA sequences. But before it was all based on phenotypes, and of course phenotypes are derived from the genetic makeup of a plant. But a phenotype is just so complex and so many genes go into a single phenotype that's very difficult to use the phenotype to kind of infer the genotype. So I guess what I'm trying to say is expect a lot of things to change even as we're kind of continuing on, because I guess as more and more species are being sequenced, we'll learn a lot more about their relative relationship to each other. So relative relationship, that is literally the worst expression I've ever used. But anyways, not sure where I'm getting at, but you know, taxonomy, it's a bit difficult for me. Okay, I think I'm just gonna snap this one off and hope it's gonna branch, or cut actually, and then grow into the media, right? Let's see, that usually works. Again, this is a little small for this plant, but you know, that's all I have. Okay, there you go. This is the new home for this Laelia anceps. I really like Laelia anceps. It's the perfect species for me as someone who doesn't really like to water too much. They're very drought tolerant, and also their fragrance is amazing. Oof, so strong but so good. I really hope to be able to see them in bloom again this kind of fall-ish winter. Okay, next up I'm just gonna take care of this plant. I already mentioned it. It's the Angraecum leonis. I've had this plant for I think almost 3 years, or 3 years now, I guess. And I know that this plant hates having its roots, like even you can't look at its roots. It's like, no, cannot touch them, cannot look at them. It's extremely sensitive towards that. As you can see, there's like the remnants of a flower spike. Unfortunately, the buds blasted. It started flowering, or like started growing the spike in December last year. After I've had it kind of just grow a lot. This plant went through such a huge development under my care. It's insane actually, because it came as like a tiny little seedling and now it's huge. I made, I think, a community post about it. At the time when I first saw the flower spike emerging. I'm not sure why this blasted. I think Nina from Ninja's Orchids, she also has an Angraecum leonis, and I think hers also had some bud blast for even several years in a row. Yeah, I don't know, maybe the plant was just not ready for it after all. But yeah, let's see, maybe in a new setup it's gonna be a little happier. I feel like this leaf is about to fall off actually, which is fine, right? Like senescence is a part of the life cycle, but that's okay. I feel like I should have soaked this a little better. It's not wet, it's just humid at this point, and I feel like maybe having it wetter would help a little bit with the detangling, but actually there's a lot, like while lots of the roots seem a bit papery, there are lots of new tips and alive roots in this root ball, so that's really nice. Let's see if they are gonna make it actually. I should have repotted this a while back actually. You can see there are some aerial roots on it, and one of them is kind of starting to branch, so I'm hoping to get it into the media and make it branch, hopefully grow a new root system. Let's see. It's also, sorry if you hear any noises and so on. There's a tram line. Again, I live right next to the tram line. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like these Angraecoids, I have quite a few of them now. They're really interesting. They challenge me a bit actually. They're very confusing because most of my collection is of course made up of sympodial orchids, and Angraecoids are scarily closely related to a genus we don't mention on this channel. I've actually been called out on the hypocrisy of liking Angraecoids but then hating this other genus. And to that, the only thing I can say is you like what you like, right? Can't help it. I really do like Angraecoids. They're weird because they're monopodial, so I'm like, that's just, I don't really understand. Like, if you could choose, wouldn't you want to be sympodial and grow like new pseudobulbs and have like energy storage and an easier way of dealing with, I guess, with rot and so on? I mean, I guess if you're a monopodial, you can produce keikis, but dendrobians do that and they're sympodial, so I'm like, I don't really understand. So what's their shtick? Like, I get it. If you grow in like the actual tropics closer to the equator where conditions are very stable, you don't need pseudobulbs, I guess, which are more a sign of adaptation to different seasons. But wouldn't you still want them just to be on the safe side? Like, what if you end up with someone who really has no idea and then you get stem rot and die? Angraecum didieri. Anyways. Yeah, I think I don't want to clean it up too much more. I don't know if you can see as well, this has had some scale, but it's been treated. And let's hope it's gonna stay away. Oh, these are actually two plants. Okay, I thought one of them was an offshoot of the other one, but I guess they're actually two separate plants. I never knew. Ugh. Kind of want to keep them together, not gonna lie. But now it's just in a really weird... How am I gonna do this? Kind of want to keep them together. I like them in one pot. Maybe I can do it like this. Is it gonna fit in here? Yes. I've had it in kind of smaller bark and some moss, and I feel like that was a setup that was really good for this plant, or these plants actually, because there are two. I'm just gonna have some moss and some bark. Right, we learned we don't put moss in the bottom anymore. We put bark there and then maybe have some moss on top for the new roots that are just kind of doing their thing. I'm a bit worried for this smaller plant actually, because it doesn't seem to have such a good root system, and as I said, usually this, like in my experience, this Angraecum leonis really does not react well to its roots being messed with. And I feel like for this species, being messed with does include just being looked at. Yeah, but this was actually one of the first orchids I got for my collection in 2020. I placed an order in March, I want to say, of 2020. And yeah, Angraecum leonis was one of the first ones that I got. It really, for whatever reason, it really spoke to me, and it still does. Yeah, let's see if I will be able to get it to produce a new flower spike maybe later this year. Seems to be kind of a winter bloomer in Europe anyways. So yeah, let's see. This one root kind of doesn't want to make it into the media, but that's okay. Maybe put just a little bit of moss next to it. And yeah, there you go. This is Angraecum leonis, freshly repotted. Beautiful. I really like the shape of this plant. It's so cute. Okay, next up, I wanna handle this plant here. This is Cattleya labiata rubra by rubra. I got this from Bella Vista in 2021 in an import, and I just want to repot it because there are new roots coming and it's just right at the edge of the pot, so it's kind of the perfect time. All of these plants actually I chose because there's something happening on the root front. Yeah, so I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but there's a lot happening here with kind of new roots sprouting, so this is the perfect time to pot it up into a bigger setup. Also, what you can probably see is that there are two growths next to this tiny one that failed. I've had this issue a lot with plants, not a lot, but I've had some plants, even very recently now, that just kind of dumped their most recent growth and then went like, whatever, I'll just put out two new ones next to it. And I think this was actually due to the super hot summer, and right, I think in my last video, the one where I'm like, oh, I don't know, I like killed over 30 plants this year, I mentioned that I thought I had some rot issues. Well, so it turns out actually that this was actually pointed out to me in the comments. So turns out that what I thought was rot might actually have been a calcium deficiency. So I want to make a video about this specifically because I feel like I kind of underestimated, I guess, the calcium requirements of these Cattleyas. And yeah, then they just basically killed off their new growths because they didn't have enough calcium to, you know, build their cell walls. And this happened with this plant. I've had several where I just had this kind of leaf tip dieback happening. So yeah, there's a lot that I observed even for both of my larger walkerianas. Very recently now, they just had growths and they both actually dropped these new growths and have now new ones coming instead. So it's very odd, but I started already addressing the calcium issue. Started basically every watering now contains CalMag to kind of make up for the deficiency, hopefully. I know Nina has a whole video series about calcium and magnesium, and I know she also feeds, I think, calcium nitrate and magnesium sulfate separately. I'm not sure if she does it on top of the CalMag or what exactly the setup is. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to include more of this, the calcium as well, because even though the fertilizer I'm using, the rain mix is supposed to contain it. And I've also always added some tap water into the mix that I use to water and fertilize my plants. And tap water, at least the one that I used to have before, contains a lot of calcium. It's calcium carbonate, which many people say might not be available to plants, but I'm like, I don't know, if it dissolves into water, I don't see how the orchids would be able to distinguish between different soluble salts. I guess there's always the argument that the nutrient availability also depends on the pH of the media and the water and everything. And I don't know, in organic media there should be kind of an acidic pH. I don't know, I feel like all of this is getting very complicated and I need to look into this. There's this chart that everyone shows where they're like, there you go, you need like pH 6 point something for bioavailability, but I don't know if I read the chart correctly. I'm doing it out of memory right now, but I think it looks like calcium is actually even more available at higher pH. So, I don't know. Anyways, to me it's very surprising that epiphytic plants would have such high calcium requirements apparently, because presumably if you grow on a tree and all your water is derived from rain, right, and then the nutrients come just, I don't know, from decaying plant material and so on surrounding you, and I don't know, maybe some droppings of some animals like birds and whatnot, but still, like, presumably there shouldn't be that much calcium around you. So yeah, I don't fully get it. Maybe I'm also just completely overthinking it, or like I'm kind of misunderstanding it. So I guess ultimately what I'm saying is, please let me know. Like, it's a bit weird, with all of these nutrients. Like, how does it work? I know that Paphiopedilums apparently, at least some of them, grow on limestone and so on, so there is in general a higher calcium requirement, and I've always kind of made sure that those get their extra calcium, even though I don't know if they actually really need it. I know some Paphiopedilum mixes even contain, I don't know, some eggshells or whatnot, which is also calcium carbonate. So I'm like, if people add eggshells to their media to provide calcium, and it's calcium carbonate, but then say tap water, since it's calcium carbonate, is not available, something doesn't add up there. You know what I mean? I don't know. Let me know what you think. What's your take on calcium supplementation? Do you do it for your plants, or do you provide them with calcium? I feel like there is a plan kind of developing in my mind right now. Let's see if I can actually pull it off and how I'm gonna do it. Before I share it on the channel, I want to experiment with it for a while. Calcium, pH, nutrient availability. Apparently also at higher temperatures, Cattleyas are not so good with calcium transport, and since I've had I think it was 4 weeks of kind of close to 40 degrees Celsius, which I guess is in the 90s Fahrenheit. I'll look it up. That's hot, I guess. And I've been to Brazil. I went to kind of the Rio area for a week in 2018 in November. It wasn't that hot there, but apparently in January it gets kind of 40-ish degrees there. So, and I know some of the plants I have would grow in that area as well. So, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the more you look into things, the more you notice how little you know. It's like that with everything, You go to university, study something, and in the end, you're just better at asking questions. Anyways, so I think this is enough of a cleanup now. I know it's not perfect, and I feel like many people would be like, oh, there's still so much media left, but getting too finicky for me. So yeah, anyways, this plant, I really like it. Cattleya labiata. Such a nice color form as well, because it's, I think I said so, right? It's a rubra by rubra stone. Yeah, and as you can tell, I basically omitted the moss completely. I feel like the way I use moss nowadays is more of as like a top dressing. It's really useful there. I don't really like it for inside the pot anymore though. And I think at some point I also want to switch to maybe synthetic or something, because, you know, this kind of sphagnum moss harvesting this destroys natural habitats, so you know, it's not so nice. But yeah, so there you go. This is Cattleya labiata, rubra by rubra. I hope all of these plants are going to be able to really root into their new media very tightly before I put them outside, because I feel like if they get blown away by the wind, I'm going to be very upset. Anyways, I'm just going to put this here for now, and we'll continue with a really special plant. This is the Cattleya warscewiczii semi-alba Frau Melanie Beyrodt that I got, I want to say in November last year. I forget when I got this, late last year, but it's producing 2 new growths, or like under my care it has grown this growth, and there are 2 new ones coming now already. You see the roots are popping. It's time to get this out, and also look at this, right? So dangerous. So since it's been potted up in here very recently, I kind of don't want to do too much with it now. I just want to kind of take it and plop it into the new setup, kind of. Is this big enough? No, this is not big enough. I might actually recycle one of the pots that one of the anceps was in. Maybe this one is, maybe this pot is better size-wise. Even that is kind of borderline too small, but I don't think I have anything bigger that makes sense for this plant. Maybe I could do this one. Then I have to figure out where to put the Laelia dayana. But I guess this one would be nice. I really like this plant, just even its growth habit, it's just so beautiful. 2 new growths coming, that's always exciting to me. Regina Elsner sold this to me, and she used kind of this size bark. And very obviously this plant loves that. I just flicked off one of the root tips. Amazing. But yeah, whatever. There are lots of other roots coming. I don't think that's an issue. I'm still a bit confused because this plant looks like it's actually never bloomed, but it's a cutting from a clone that was awarded in 1903. You know what I mean? There's no remnants of a previous flower spike on this at all. So it's a bit weird, right? Okay, there you go. Cattleya warscewiczii semi-alba Frau Melanie Beyrodt. Oof, I hope this plant is gonna do really well under my care, because it was super expensive and it's so beautiful. So yeah, 2 new growths. I hope we're gonna get some really nice blooms this year. Fingers crossed. I know I always say, I don't grow for blooms, but for this one, I think it would be really nice. Warscewiczii or warscewiczii, I guess, is such an impressive species. I've actually read and heard that you should kind of not water your warscewiczii until the growth has, the new growth has a certain size. Apparently that is really important to induce flowering. I don't know, I feel like back bulbs are a bit shriveled. The leaves seem fine. Let's see, maybe I'll at least water not as much as I would normally do, because my instinct is if something's growing, you get water. Yeah, maybe if it's better not to, I'll just try it and then we'll see. Okay, next up we already have this here. This is my Laelia dayana coerulea, also called Cattleya beyrodt. This species originates from very close to Rio. There's like a little mountain range called the Organ Mountains, and that's where it comes from. I've actually not seen it there though, in the wild, but this plant grew a lot. I got this, I want to say also in 2020. So it's been 3 years in this pot. Again, the sphagnum in the bottom does not look so good, I think. But yeah, it grew a lot. There's so many new pseudobulbs and everything. This is such a vigorous plant. It's bloomed for me twice already. So it bloomed in 2021 and last year as well. 2021 was the first flower, kind of only one. Then 2022 was 2. I hope I'm not disturbing it too much right now, because then we can have 3 maybe this year. That would be great, but I feel like this plant does not take a break ever. It just grows permanently, and it kind of blooms in summer. Kind of July-ish is when it has its flowers, and it's so nice. It's really cute. Not fragrant, unfortunately, but the color, I really like the color on this one, and the shape of the flowers is really nice. The coerulea is actually very pronounced on this one, I think. It's not, because sometimes you have these coeruleas that are just kind of a like weird, paler, slightly more cool-toned version of the tipo, but this one is like, it's almost like a semi-alba, but like darker and like more dark purple. Really nice, the contrast is great. So I'm super happy with this one. I feel like sometimes people list this as like a rupicolous Laelia. Again, I feel like rupicolous Laelia, it's not really a taxonomical term. So there is, it's more like, it describes more a lifestyle, I guess. Or like a habitat where plants grow. I don't know if this is actually really rupicolous, right? Because that means kind of growing on rocks and whatnot. I do have some of those rupicolous Laelias. I can show you one that's in bloom actually, that I'm super happy about. The Laelia walkeriana. So nice, has 2 flowers that are extremely bright and orange. Looks so great. Also not fragrant, but you know, can't have everything. But yeah, really great addition, I think, these rupicolous Laelias. But yeah, I'm not sure if Cattleya beyrodt or Laelia dayana, whatever you want to call it, if this one is actually a member of that group. Then again, it's really not that important, right? It is definitely a very compact plant. You can see it's really not that big. It's a lot of fun to grow. I find it very easygoing, very easy to take care of, grows extremely quickly, and the flowers are really nice, so that's great. I have actually a very close relative of it, the Laelia pumila. We're gonna repot that right after this one, which hasn't bloomed for me yet. It also seems to be a little bit of a slower grower. Don't know if this is just these individuals that I have, but yeah, Laelia pumila, I don't know. It's a bit less vigorous, I think, at least in my hands, than the dayana. But yeah, let's see, maybe this year we can also get the pumila to make some advances when they're outside, right? Because I feel like probably when they're outside they're gonna have a much different environment, gonna react very differently. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. I guess the light, the sunlight outside, even if it's shade, is gonna be so much brighter than anything my grow lights can provide. So yeah, let's see. Oh, I also, by the way, I also joined the local orchid society. It's really cool. everyone's so nice. They only meet every other month. It's the first time for me to be part of an orchid society or anything like that. And they're so nice, these people. I'm telling you, so welcoming, so friendly. Like, I'm so much younger than everyone else. And they were saying when I joined that me being there changed the average age down to 72. I'm not sure how much of a joke that was, but I feel like they were maybe not that far off actually. So these are super experienced growers. Some of them, like, I remember one of them, the first meeting that was in February, it was like, yeah, you know, I'm getting older now, so I had to really reduce my plant collection, so now I only have 2,000 plants. And I'm like, 2,000? What? Insane, could never. I always struggle with my relatively small collection compared to that. And then someone else was like, yeah, so in my warm greenhouse, this is what's happening, but in my greenhouse, this is what's happening. I'm like, oh my god, you have 2 greenhouses? Like, oof, amazing. So I feel like there's a lot to learn from the local orchid society. It's really cool. I'm really excited. And yeah, they're actually meeting again kind of next week-ish. So, and I already know what I want to bring to that meeting for kind of to show what I grow. Okay, I feel like this step up is maybe not enough. I don't know, because like it outgrew its other pot so quickly, but then this one is just going to be so much media and it's going to be so wet for so long. I could do one of those, like a smaller pot inside. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do this, and this is like a glass pot even, so I don't need a rock to make it heavier. I think this might actually be a really nice setup. Bigger pot, a little more shallow. I think this should be fine. Because you can really see it, all of the roots are just on top here. They don't really want to go into the media at all. I still want to give it media though, because I feel like without it, like having it mounted, I know some people are doing really well with mounting their plants. I feel like it's a bit too advanced for me. Maybe in the future I'm going to be able to take care of plants that are mounted, but right now I don't feel too comfortable with it. Oof, this is so much bigger now. Oof. Laelia dayana coerulea. Let's hope it's gonna like its new home. Okay, as promised, next up is Laelia pumila. And this is also just growing a few new roots now, but you can see one of its growth directions is leaving the pot. Yeah, I think this was in this pot as well for 3 years now. This is also one of the plants I got very early on in, for this collection. And I think it's really time to get it out of here. I wonder if this one actually would like a little more humidity compared to the dayana. But you can see a huge difference in just kind of the vigor of these plants when you compare them side by side. Also the root ball and everything. It's kind of crazy how big that difference really is. Laelia pumila has so many really nice color forms though, like there are rubras, Frutias, albas, concolors. And I kind of want to go into that direction as well, but at the same time I'm like, if I can't make the tipo bloom, I kind of don't want to invest too much into all these other color forms if they may never do that well for me, you know what I mean? This is actually pretty tight already. Again, I feel like every time I repot plants, I start rambling at some point about how we need more shallow orchid pots. And I don't know why, but somehow my intuition tells me maybe I should offer a little more humidity to this plant, so I want to use a little bit of moss as a top dressing around the new emerging roots. This may or may not be a good idea, we'll see, but I don't know, my intuition just tells me maybe this plant would do a little better with some more hydration in its system, and if I can offer the moss as a medium on top of the pot, I think this is kind of the best position for it. As I said, I don't really like it inside or like on the bottom of the pot anymore. I feel like if I have it on top like this and the new roots can really grow into it, then it's really good to keep the top hydrated. So, Laelia pumila, or I guess Cattleya pumila. And I think, so there is one last plant that I want to repot today, and I think then I'm gonna take a break and continue on another day. This is Cattleya warneri concolor, which, as you can see, is completely at the edge of its pot. I got this from Bella Vista in my import from them in 2021. Oof, those roots are all dead. I feel like this plant did not really love the move. Most of my plants are actually doing really well. Not all, but really most of them did not have any issues with the move. However, actually, my Psychopsis, I think I'm gonna lose that thing. But anyways, I feel like this Cattleya warneri was also not super happy with the move. Let's have a look. I feel like there should be some new growths coming soon. And never know, right? Like every Cattleya species has a different rooting schedule. Actually, you're supposed to repot when new roots come, but since this was so on the edge of the pot, I kind of didn't want to force it to squish its new growths too much. I'm just getting rid of the sheath on these growths. I feel like Cattleya warneri, at least in my hands, is a species that's more susceptible to scale. I'm not sure why, I don't really have an explanation for that, but I feel like, at least in my collection, usually if plants are really inflicted with scale, it's the warneries. So yeah, I don't know. Is that something you experience as well if you grow this species at all? I feel like these Cattleya species, it's kind of getting more and more difficult to get really nice plants, Cattleya species. I was looking for some kind of more exotic warkeriana and nobilior color forms. And so Luca, they usually do Brazil import twice a year in spring and in fall. And so I asked them, hey, I know you're going to do an import. Would you mind having a look if there's, you know, some, I don't know, Cattleya, warkeriana, vinicolor, concolor, even alba, right? I recently lost the semi-alba I had. Would like to replace that. And they're like, well, we're going to have a look, but it's going to, like, we can't promise anything. Apparently the market is really empty right now, so people are not really interested in getting those at all. So I know even a few years ago you could just get really nice imports with everything I would like, right? Like, I don't know, pumila, alba. I know Asendorfer has it, but it costs like, what, almost 300 euros? I'm like, maybe not. But yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like right now, apparently. So these plants are getting very rare because people don't want them. So I'm like, ugh, what a shame. Especially walkeriana, now that I got mine to bloom, I'm even more in love with it. It's such a nice species. The growth habit is amazing. It's compact. I like the shape of the pseudobulbs. The fragrance is, I mean, please. And this plant on its first bloom lasted for almost 2 months. I think it was like a week short of 2 months. So, like, who needs, you know, that genus that I'm not gonna mention, that is just so common everywhere. Like, we don't need that. We don't want that. But yeah, there you go. I feel like, I guess my taste has never really been the same as kind of the average taste. I've always been into things that were harder to find, harder to get, and so on. I hope Luca is going to be able to find something. I know last fall they actually had Nobilior concolor by vinicolor across. Immediately I picked it up. I'm still waiting for that plant to root. Ugh, you know, that's always the thing with imports. Sometimes they just take a while to feel at home. But yeah, I really hope I can get that Nobilior to root and survive, because I feel like concolor by vinicolor, that's a very interesting parentage, right? I have no idea what that would even look like. And I'm not sure if I've ever really seen a concolor Nobilior. I don't think they're really that readily available. I think that would be really cool. Would also be cool to maybe try and breed with a plant like this, to see what you can get, you know, if you, I don't know, cross it with something else, or if you cross it back to itself. So obviously these are like very long-term goals, but you know, I kind of need long-term goals. Okay, I guess this kind of bought me like 1 year or something, maybe, space-wise, but whatever, I'm not gonna complain. Yeah, Cattleya warneri concolor. Let's see how this one is gonna do. Should be fine. It's a good plant. I have the Cattleya concolor that I got in the 2022 import from Bella Vista. Oh my god. No roots, no nothing. That summer last year was very, very hard on all of my plants, and I feel like I hope this year's gonna get a little better, because I don't know if I can really maintain a nice collection if temperatures just go berserk every summer. Also hope maybe having them outside is gonna help a little bit, because presumably you would get some dew formation on them in the morning, right, which would kind of help with hydration, hopefully anyways. But yeah, there you go. This is kind of where we're heading with the repots right now. I have a bunch of more plants to do. I kind of did half of them for now, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Let me know what your plants are up to. I'm always curious what people have to say. Sorry, this chair is very squeaky, but anyways, let me know. And if you have any comments, please also let me know if there's anything you'd like me to do differently next time. I'm probably not going to be able to implement that for the next batch of plants. I don't even know if you can see them. I still have to figure out the camera angle and everything. But yeah, so the next batch is going to be only Cattleya types, because of course, mostly actually Laelia purpurata. Yeah, some of them are actually making very big progress size-wise, so that's amazing. Yeah, I hope I can kind of continue the repot tomorrow evening. I'm filming this after work. I'm a bit tired, which is also why maybe my energy is a little lower than usual. But anyways, you know, you have to get back into the swing of filming somehow, and I felt like a repot would be a nice way to kind of, you know, get the YouTube thing going again. Anyways, yeah, see you next time. Boom.